I grew up on that land. Acres upon acres of soil where my grandfather used to plow with his bare hands, where my father taught me to fish in the stream, where I learned that a man's connection to his land isn't just about ownership papers. It's about legacy. When my parents passed, all that land became mine. It wasn't much in the eyes of the city developers. Just a large open area near the edge of a growing suburb. But to me, it was the heart of who I was. For years I watched the city creep closer. First came the big box stores, then a shopping mall, then neat lines of houses with fences so white they looked like teeth biting into the horizon. I wasn't against progress, but I stayed firm on my boundaries. People offered me money to sell, but I said no every time. This is mine. I'd tell them. It's not for sale. Then one morning, I noticed trucks rolling in. At first, I thought they had the wrong land. Surely no one would dare bring in bulldozers without permission. But then the surveyors started putting up stakes, measuring out lots, and painting the grass. I walked down there, confused, and confronted the man in charge. "This is private property," I told him. He looked at me, clipboard in hand, with that smugness people wear when they think the system is on their side. "No, sir. This belongs to the HOA now. We've got the permits." My heart sank. I didn't remember selling anything, and when I demanded paperwork, he waved me off. "You'll have to take it up with the county. We're already on schedule." Days turned into weeks. Concrete foundations poured, frames went up. Workers came in swarms, hammering, cutting, laughing, not caring that every nail they drove felt like one through my chest. I called the county office, and they told me the HOA had filed claims, insisting my land was abandoned because of a technicality in old tax records. They pushed it through fast, and suddenly, on paper, it wasn't mine. I fought it, of course. But anyone who has dealt with a powerful HOA knows the money they have, the lawyers they keep on speed dial. I was one man against a machine. Friends told me to give up. "Take a settlement," they said. "At least get some money out of it." But I didn't want money. I wanted justice. And deep down, I remembered something. My grandfather had filed a separate deed years ago, before the county system even digitized records. An original, handwritten deed notarized and locked away in a metal box in the attic. When my father died, he told me, "This is your shield if anyone ever tries to steal what's yours." So while they built, I stayed quiet. I worked odd jobs, kept a low profile, and visited the courthouse archives every week. I found old maps, signatures, and surveys. I built my case brick by brick, just like they built their homes. Every nail they hammered in made my resolve stronger. By the time they had completed 96 homes, with families moving in and the HOA holding meetings about landscaping rules and community swimming pool schedules, I had my weapon ready, the original deed, still in perfect condition, proving the land was never legally transferred, and that the county's claim was based on a clerical error. But I didn't just want to wave it around. I wanted the timing to be perfect, so I waited until the HOA filed papers against me, demanding that I pay dues for living near their community. That was their fatal mistake. Court day arrived. I wore my father's old jacket, not because it was fancy, but because it made me feel like generations of my family were walking with me. Across the aisle sat the HOA's board. 5 smug men in suits, and a woman who looked at me like I was dirt on her shoes. Their lawyers shuffled stacks of documents, whispering and smiling, as if the outcome was already written. The judge asked for opening statements. Their lawyer stood, painting me as a stubborn squatter, refusing to acknowledge reality. "Your Honor, the defendant is attempting to stall progress, to harass homeowners who purchased in good faith, and to avoid paying fair dues. He has no legal standing." Then, it was my turn. I stood up, hands slightly trembling, but voice steady. "Your Honor, I have one piece of evidence, one document that proves everything they've said is built on sand." I pulled out the metal box I had carried since dawn and placed the deed on the table. The room grew quiet. I could hear the rustle of papers stop. I handed it to the clerk, who walked it to the judge. The judge adjusted his glasses, scanning the document. He looked at the notary seal, the date, decades old, and the signatures. His eyebrows rose. "Counsel," he said, turning to the HOA's lawyers. "Were you aware of this deed?" They stammered. That can't be right. This was never in the system. We had the county records." The judge cut them off. "The county records were incomplete. This is a valid deed. This land, all of it, still belongs to Mr. Turner." The words hit the room like thunder. Gasps echoed from the audience. The HOA president turned red, his lips trembling with rage. One of the board members whispered something about bankruptcy. Their lawyer begged for continuance, but the judge shook his head. "You built on land you didn't own. That's not Mr. Turner's fault. That's yours." I can't describe the rush of emotions that hit me. Justice. Relief. The ghosts of my father and grandfather smiling somewhere proud. I didn't shout or gloat. I just stood tall, because dignity was worth more than revenge. Over the next months, chaos unfolded. Families who thought they owned homes found out their deeds were void. The HOA tried to negotiate, tried to buy me out, even offered me millions to sign the land over. But I remembered all the times they laughed at me, dismissed me, tried to erase my family's name. I made a choice. Some families who had no idea what was going on, who had put their life savings into those houses, I worked out fair leases with them, so they could stay without fear. But as for the HOA board, I let their empire crumble. They lost everything. Their greed and arrogance turned into their downfall. And me, I walked the land one evening, the sun setting golden across the rows of houses. It wasn't the same as the open fields my grandfather plowed, but it was still mine. And in that moment, I knew one truth. Patience is stronger than power, and justice, though it walks slowly, always arrives. So if you found this story inspiring, filled with struggle, patience, and ultimate victory, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us never to give up, no matter how stacked the odds are against us. Winning in court was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of a different kind of fight. Justice on paper feels glorious, but justice in real life comes with complications. The moment the judge ruled in my favor, the 96 homes built on my land suddenly became mine. But along with that victory came the reality that dozens of families, mothers, fathers, children, were now living in houses that technically weren't theirs anymore. Their anger wasn't directed at me at first, it was directed at the HOA that had deceived them. But people need someone to blame, and soon, whispers began spreading through the community that I was the man who stole their homes. One evening, as I walked the land, a woman stepped out of her porch holding her little boy's hand. Her voice trembled with fear. "Are you going to make us leave? We put everything we had into this house. If we lose it, we have nowhere to go." Her son clutched her dress, staring at me with wide, tearful eyes. I felt my chest tighten. I had fought the HOA for justice, but I didn't want innocent families to suffer. I knelt down and said to the boy, "You're safe. I won't let anyone throw you out." His small arms wrapped around me without hesitation, and in that moment, I knew my fight had shifted. From fighting for land to fighting for people. Over the following weeks, I sat at kitchen tables with dozens of families, listening to their stories. Some had drained their savings, others had taken on crushing mortgages, all under the false promise that the HOA owned this land. My lawyer told me I could legally evict everyone and sell the homes for millions, but when I saw the fear in their eyes, I remembered my father's words, "A man's land is not just dirt. It's the place where people live, where they build their lives." So I offered them a choice. They could stay and pay a fair lease, far less than what the HOA had demanded, or if they wanted, I would sell them the land under their homes at cost, with no profit for myself. Some cried with relief. Some hugged me. And slowly, the whispers of me being a villain faded, replaced by something else. A kind of respect. But not everyone was grateful. The HOA board members, stripped of power, tried to retaliate. They spread lies in the local papers, calling me a land baron, accusing me of extortion. One even showed up at my doorstep shouting threats, his face red with rage. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The world had already seen their downfall in court. Months turned into a year, and the community began to thrive. Not because of the HOA's strict rules, but because people finally had freedom. Neighbors planted gardens without asking permission. Kids rode bikes without being fined for. Noise and laughter filled the air where once there had been only tension. The land that had been a battleground for greed was now a place of peace. One evening, I stood at the edge of the land, watching the sun dip low behind the rooftops. A man approached me, an elderly gentleman who had bought one of the first homes built. He placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "You could have ruined us all. Instead, you gave us back our dignity." Don't think we don't see that. His eyes were wet with gratitude. I realized then that victory isn't about crushing enemies, it's about lifting others when you have the chance. Yes, I had beaten the HOA in court, but the real win was earning the trust of the families who now shared this land with me. Years later, children born in those 96 homes grew up calling me Mr. Turner, the man who saved their neighborhood. Some of them didn't even know the full story, only that I had protected their parents when everything seemed lost. And every time I walked those streets, hearing laughter and life instead of the silence of bulldozers, I felt a peace deeper than any courtroom victory could bring. The HOA board members faded into history, their empire of arrogance shattered by one piece of paper, a deed kept safe by my grandfather's hands. But what remained was something more powerful than revenge, a legacy of patience, justice, and compassion. So when people ask me, how did you find the strength to let them build all those homes before you struck back? I tell them this, because justice takes time. If you rush it, you may win the battle but lose the war. But if you wait, if you build your case like a house, brick by brick, then when the time comes, you don't just win, you change everything. And that's the lesson I want to leave with you today. No matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how impossible the fight seems, hold on. Be patient. Believe in what's right, because when the truth finally comes to light, it will shine brighter than all the lies stacked against you. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in justice, in patience, and in standing firm no matter the odds, then please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that inspire and remind us that good still triumphs in the end.